Yay. I think we're working. We're rolling. Okay. All right. So my name is Ariel Bennell, and I am a secondary English teacher studying for my MA in secondary English and curriculum and instruction. And I thought this would be a really cool topic because I've done a lot of traveling, and cultural anything really interests me. So I'm pretty excited to have a discussion about it.
I'm Robin Romero. I'm also getting my master's in secondary curriculum and instruction for English. And yeah, this topic really came at the perfect time for me. I have a lot of connections to what I'm doing with my students right now, and it's like helped me literally today with what I was doing in my classroom.
So cool.
Awesome. All right, I am Erica Killam. I'm also a secondary language arts teacher, and I am also in the MA in secondary English program. I was knew I would be interested in this topic because I'm interested in anthropology and the world, and I love to travel, and I can't travel as much as I would like to, so I like to read about the world. And what I did not expect was to connect with it as much as I am. I'm so excited to explore more of the course.
Absolutely, when we all have time, huh?
That one line that he said, what did he say? He was like, I forget, I didn't copy it properly, but it was in his lecture, and he said something about get an education and you'll never be bored again, or imagine never being bored again. Right. And I was like, you know what? I maybe have not been bored since college. I haven't felt that.
Absolutely.
No way.
I totally agree. I kind of pulling off of that, his comment about, let's see, where was it? So I have so many notes, it's ridiculous. About, getting out there, getting into the world, and that's where you're going to have your most, unexpected and deepest life experiences and groupings of knowledge. And kind of that's what this course is doing for me too, is having to get right into it, into the mix, and taking yourself way outside of your comfort zone, going to a different country or getting into a different course, and kind of throwing up your hands and kind of giving yourself to it, which is for me one of the hardest parts as far as college is concerned. It's elsewhere I can do that, but here is very difficult for me.
When this course first started, I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. What are you doing? Give me an overview of GarageBand or an overview of Flipgrid or whatever.
Right.
And, instead of being create a sound file of some sort and give it to me in some way, create a video file of some sort and give it to me in some way. It's been way more scary, but way more freeing because we've had to just jump right in.
Absolutely.
It's been so cool. I am so weirdly proud of the junky audio files I've made.
It's really weird how, we always say we want to have freedom for our students, provide them choice, make things authentic. But then when we're presented with those same opportunities for ourselves, our instincts are wait, no, tell us what to do. What exactly are we supposed to do?
Where's my rubric?
Right.
I probably learned so much more in this class and had more fun than other classes where I was just following some checklists.
Absolutely. Which I think we're putting ourselves in our students' positions. They probably at first are kind of what do I do here? But then once they get rolling with it, it's something that is so much more of a profound experience for them, which I think is totally what this guy, was it Professor Wesch, has done here. I loved getting into the actual website itself. There's so many different parts and parts to explore, and just getting kind of an overview of the whole course would take you a considerable amount of time. It's obviously obvious that he put in a lot of effort as far as creating things from his backstory, new stuff, and it's really exciting that there are so many different avenues to explore.
On that professor's night out, SoundCloud thing, at the end he said it took 6 months to create that one lesson. So he's definitely spending a lot of time and effort on this. I thought it was interesting at the beginning. He said, you know, he was stepping out of his comfort zone to do things this new way because he needed to, you know, change with the times. And he was talking about how like he's not used to doing videos yet. He's obviously doing a really good job.
Right, right.
I love that moment where he was like, I hate being on camera. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm rollerblading to forget that I'm on camera.
Right.
Oh,
That was
and that
perfect.
crash.
Yeah, that's kind of awful. Yeah. But real, you know, like you get the grit
Yeah.
at the same time.
And he was talking about sitting in his first anthropology class, and he said that let me see, let me find my notes. That the professor was saying things that threatened his worldview. And I thought it was so incredible that rather than just staying threatened and digging his heels in, he said, like, he was excited by that. And I think it takes I think that he was right. We need to live ourselves into that frame of thinking, because so often people just, when their worldview is threatened, they just dig their heels in and they just say, they get defensive. And so I just hope to always live in that mind space of when my worldview is threatened, it's exciting. And it means I get
Absolutely.
to learn something.
Means that you need to question things and find a different level of acceptance and understanding. And I love the line he had. You cannot. You touched on that. You cannot just think your way into a new way of living. You need to live your way into a new way of thinking. And I think that is like, that's all encompassing of this whole course. I also liked what he had put out there. It says, what is possible is really socially constructed, man-made limitations. To do what you love and don't beat yourself up if it's not necessarily socially acceptable, and to make good choices or good decisions, but make better stories. And I think that a lot of times, I know since I returned to the States, I've gotten back into that mindset of like, I'm so bogged down by all of the stuff that I have to do and things that, you know, that daily list, that you forget like there's such a bigger experience and a bigger world out there. And that's something I see a lot of in the United States. It's not so much living in the now and figuring out what's going on and being appreciative and understanding what's going on now. It's constantly like something, you know, further out, that a goal that I have to hit, or a deadline that I missed and I'm worried about that, or, you know, it's constant noise, and we never get a chance to really delve into the experiences that we're having right now.
My background on my phone is just a little graphic that I made that says, how present are you? And
Awesome.
so every time I hit my phone to check my notifications, I see that thing that says, how present are you?
It's like a check.
And
That's
I can
awesome.
put my phone away and be present.
I love
Well,
that.
and the thing too is like, we rush through all of our daily to-dos, and we, you know, make the excuse that we don't have time to do these other things. But ultimately, I think there is something about like, if you fill the jar with the big rocks first, then all the little rocks will like fill in the spaces between.
Right.
And so like the day-to-day stuff is all the little rocks, but you know, the big things, the important things, fill those in first, and you'll still make time and space for the little things. And then you'll have a better sense of self and accomplishment, peace, whatever.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great analogy. I think a lot of times we forget that, and we lose our value system a lot. I've felt more here than overseas. People are more aware of family and community and connection and things like this. And here we're so focused on independence and individuality and the whole my instead of the we. And I think that's what this course is really starting to try to bring back, an awareness of that we are all connected and we're all human, and there's ways to understand, you know, everybody.
So I was like thinking about this, and I'm just like, well, this is basically, in my opinion, like the whole point of education. You know, we have jobs as teachers, we have skills students need to learn, but if you're looking at the whole big idea of like, what do we want our students to take away when they leave the education system, it's, you know, to be better human beings. And how do we get them to be better human beings? Is it if they know how to write a 5-paragraph essay, or is it if they know how to interact and appreciate other human beings? So I'm like, I've done a project with my students in the past, ethnography research project where they had to step out of their comfort zone, and like the overall question was something like, what can you learn by stepping out of your comfort zone and exploring other cultures or something like that. And I feel like a lot of this stuff tied so closely to that. And I'm doing another research project at a new school with high school students now, and it's about like education of like another country, and I'm like, what is the purpose? Like, why do they need to know that? So I've made changes, and that's what I was struggling all week of like how to make that more purposeful and meaningful, and like watching all of this stuff and reading about it made me like bring back to that you can explore other cultures and learn from other cultures. And yes, like I'm required to do something about education in there, so I can say, you know, what can the US learn from another education system in another culture, and what can you as an individual learn by exploring other cultures? That's my like spin on it.
And so was that the impact that you were talking about when you introduced yourself? Like today you actually had kind of an aha moment as far as the connection.
Yeah. I was a lot of this stuff in his class was so similar to that project I did in the past. But I wasn't really seeing how I could make it fit with this new project that I'm supposed to do. Or at this new school. It's an old project that they've been doing for a very, very long time. But this kind of helped me see one, just like reaffirmed the importance of looking at it through this lens, and to like actually gave me some real ideas.
Excuse me.
We read one year, we read a book called The Breadwinner, and it's about a girl in Afghanistan who was under Taliban rule and dressed up as a boy to like go get water. But we talked a lot about like, they talk in the book a lot about schooling, and we did it alongside a research project about Malala Yousafzai. And it was one of the first epiphanies my kids had of like, wow, this thing that's such a drag for us to come to school every day, it's a privilege because our government values education enough to force us to be here when we could be out running around the streets and doing whatever, and people are dying for that right in other countries. And so it was a nice little aha moment for them to see, like, we have to be here not because adults hate us, but because the government and our country and the adults in our lives value our education.
Both of those sounds like great projects. I'd love to run those with my students. I'm like, jotting down notes as we speak. Let's see. I have a couple of quotes here I thought maybe we could just kind of touch on. Collectively, we make the world. Understanding how we make the world, how it could be made or understood differently is the road toward realizing our full human potential. It is the road to true freedom. I was hoping to kind of, I would like a chance to actually get my students to explore this particular, my high school students to explore this particular site, because I think there's so many in just the videos alone, like not even getting into the text, which I did delve into a bit, but times, you know, didn't have enough time. But I think everybody should have or should make the time to take a course like this, because it's building that understanding that we're lacking right now, and that's why we're having problems with you know, wars and even fights in classes and things like this, not being able to communicate properly. And so taking a step back and realizing that we make all the turmoil that is going on here. And so if we can take a step back and collectively understand what is actually happening and why it's actually happening, maybe we can work together to kind of take steps to fix it.
And we do a lot of work with our kids too. Like, at least we try really hard to, you know, show them like they make the school.
Right.
They make the community. And at some points, you have to be the one that says, I'm going to step back and I'm going to do what's best for the group and for this community. And it might be uncomfortable for me. I may have to keep my mouth shut when I want to yell at someone, but we create this community. And if it's going to be a loving one, we have to work at it. And I think I'm going to have some of my honors kids. I teach 8th grade, so probably not my Gen Ed kids, my honors kids explore this also.
Excellent.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I was thinking that I was just thinking of it in the sense of like what I was taking out of it. Some ideas I was applying to the general like research project that I'm going to be doing, but I didn't really think of like having my students actually explore this site themselves, or like try the challenges or anything. I think that's a great idea.
Right. I think the challenges are totally, within reach for our students to actually go out and try them, no matter what grade, really. I mean, they're all pretty applicable just to going out, getting out of your comfort zone and taking a stab at it,
Talking to strangers. That's
right.
Like
right.
teeth for 8th graders.
Right.
Well, and there are so many that, and they're kind of big. A lot of them are kind of big. So
sure. You can tweak
pick
them.
one that you think is good for you.
Right. Absolutely. I think another huge takeaway for me was, again, listening to the professor's night out when he met, and I can't remember, it's a foreign exchange student that he ran into, and not having the words necessarily. I guess his English wasn't all that great, and finding himself the first year in college being kind of, stuck in his dorm and not really social and watching a lot of movies and sleeping a lot. And that thought of like, that's the reflection in action. If you don't know who you are when you are surrounded by people who don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. And so, the next semester he kind of got out and started experiencing things more. And when the professor met him in that club, it was like, he doesn't have, if you heard him speak, he doesn't have the best English, you can totally understand him, but he didn't even need to talk. He communicated through facial gestures and movement and dance. And I think, again, that's something to kind of keep in mind for our students and for ourselves, is that you don't always need to discuss everything. There are so many other ways to communicate. You can find the words if you just take the time to do it. And for my students, I taught in China for 3 years. So for my students to feel that, to understand that this is probably going to be really hard for you, but you have to take yourself out of that moment, that dormitory, and get out there and explore in any way you can, whether it's dance, whether it's, singing, whether it's art, whatever it is, your hobby or whatever. You'll find connections. You just have to take and find the strength to go out and try it.
I taught in the Republic of Georgia right after college, so I was really young. It was awesome. And the really emotional reaction I had was definitely to his talk about culture shock.
Sure.
But one of my biggest regrets in my teaching life there was that I spoke Georgian, it's its own language, and then also everyone there speaks Russian. So I kind of learned them both simultaneously, but I spoke it really functionally within a couple of months. I spoke like functional Georgian.
Wow.
But I would never speak in front of my students in Georgia, because they had it's a tiny country. It's so isolated. They had literally never heard somebody speak their language with an accent.
Sure.
They had never heard someone stumble over their language, and it was the funniest thing they had ever heard in their life. First second I tried, I had 70 kids pointing and laughing at me, and I was 23 and I couldn't take it, and so I only spoke in English.
Sure.
And I pretended that it was like my pedagogy, that I will only speak in English, but really like I couldn't take it. And it was such a regret for me, because how powerful would it have been for them to be able to watch me struggle in a language, so they can struggle right along with me as they are learning English.
Sure.
And they can see that we can still communicate, even though these barriers are still up. We can break them down and we can struggle together. I'm still just like so mad at myself for being such a punk about it.
Well, did you have any experiences with your students outside of the classroom?
Yeah, I lived in a pretty small town. So I saw them everywhere, and I took dance classes.
Nice.
And so I would go, I danced like at their studio, which I use the word studio very loosely. I would go see their dance performances and stuff like that.
Actually, so they had the opportunity to see you struggle in other areas, like, with the cultural immersion and you just being completely out of your zone, you know?
And we were the weird American girls.
Sure.
I had a friend who lived there, and so the whole town knew us. And it was just, so they definitely saw me being an outsider and being kind of a weirdo there.
Right.
Which is great, because now they're trying to leave. They're at the age now where they're graduating from high school, and so they're trying to leave Georgia, move to the UK, move wherever.
Right.
Be the weirdos.
But so they saw you, but that's the thing, is like I always tried to be as weird as I possibly could, you know, like make it, and anytime I messed up, because I messed up so many times, like my Chinese is like this much is in the grand scheme of the time that I was there. I probably should have learned more, but it's so hard to learn. But they saw me screw up like multiple times. I got to tell you this quick story, and then we can move on to another topic. My first week of teaching there, I would go in and I would say, okay, so we're going to do, you know, this, and then we'll move on to this. Okay. Is that a deal? You know, and I said that over and over, and my students are like, they're pointing and they're laughing, and I let this go on for a week because I was like, you know, whatever, they're doing it, so it's okay. And a week later, they're still like snickering and laughing as I'm saying deal. And I was like, okay, I'm not moving on. We're not doing anything else until you tell me what is so funny. And so they said, Miss, like deal in Cantonese means the F word. And so I'm pointing at students like all day long saying, you know, and that's like a cultural thing. Like I had no idea. And just being able to like, you know, laugh it off and say this kind of thing will happen no matter where you go, no matter what language you speak, no matter where you're from. So just if you can own it and laugh at yourself, then it makes it so much easier for others to just be okay, you know. So
I had to laugh so much.
I think good point.
Oh, I lost your audio there a little bit.
Okay, I would say in Georgian, the word for like very or so is like, it's basically two. And so when our friends would be saying something, they would say like, oh, it's too nice out, or it's too easy, or they would say like, you look too pretty, or something. And I'm like, no, I don't look too pretty. Thank you.
Right.
And we're like, no, this isn't too fun. Like, calm down. They got the writer's crossed, and just they were saying like so or very or like a lot. And I just always had to laugh because it took me like a few months to make that connection.
Sure.
I always thought that they were being like he was like, you're walking too slow or something. Like,
were you going to say something, Robin? I think your audio kind of cut out there and I couldn't hear you.
I was just going to say that one of the comments he made in the Professor's Night Out audio was who was the student and who was the teacher. And he was talking about how, you know, like we don't always have to be the teachers. We need to keep ourselves open to learning from our students or learning from anyone around us, really. So if we keep that mindset and help our students to have that mindset, I think that's beneficial for everyone. And also to let them know that we have that mindset, I think is important too.
Absolutely.
Like that they let them know that they have the power to teach us and change us.
Yeah, it's so important to just have that like, no, I don't know about that. Oh my God, tell me about it.
Right. Give them that power. Absolutely. Absolutely. I always start like the beginning of my term or my semester or anything when I have a new class by announcing like, I am going to screw up because I am a human being just like you. So we can all learn from these situations, and I will give you props, maybe even a little prize if you can actually point out when I mess up, because I am not always aware of it. Just keeping them on their toes and again, letting them understand that we're all learning from each other. We're all on the same page, and we can grow together no matter what. So
yeah, it would be brutal to try to be perfect in front of teenagers every day.
Right.
Try to pretend to be perfect. Oh God.
Right. I do my best not like to be as weird and like off as possible, so they have something to laugh at, you know, because it just keeps it on a real level.
Yeah, and just as like imperfect as possible. Like my kids are always like, "Oh, your speaker died. You didn't charge it."
Right.
No. I think the more adults they see who are willing to take down that that facade and like show like who they really are. And I think that so much better, because then they can start to feel more comfortable doing that for themselves and not trying to put up some sort of perception for others.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the last things that I wanted to say about the site, and I just had it, and then it was like, let's see. There were so many different pieces. Did you guys go through like each one of the lessons, each one of the challenges kind of thing, or you just kind of?
A little bit, yeah. Just clicked a little bit around.
I like that they're. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I looked through all of them, especially the challenges, and I like highlighted a few that I want to try myself.
Right? I know, I was doing the same thing. If I had had more time, that was my kind of goal. And then my 1-year-old got sick and like my world blew up. But I wanted to do that and kind of give some feedback as to what I got as far as the takeaway. But this is totally like, I feel like it's transmedia in motion, you know? They've got the SoundClouds for things that are happening right now. There are videos from things that he's recorded, you know, years and years ago. There are today's lessons. There are links to this and books and everything all in one. And that's what I think. I really want to design a course like this for my students. I think, or a website, something like this, where they have access to and can be kind of in charge of their own learning. Like you come in and you know, you are the face and you kind of give them all that, but they can take charge. And it being such a digitalized era, I think it would give them kind of a step up as far as getting out into the real world.
And I think one thing that I keep catching on when we do our readings is that students are not really responding to the way that we use tech in the classroom, because the way we use tech in the classroom is boring to them.
It's boring to me.
Google Docs, like Schoology discussion. And so they're not, I think that there's a big disconnect. I know I hear it a lot, like with admin, they're like, well, the kids like don't even care about using computers. Like they ask if they can write it down instead. Like how is this not working for them? And it's because it's like, it's not interesting for them. Not when they are like building worlds and publishing work on Wattpad and doing all of this stuff. Then we ask them to like type a Google Doc, right, and expect them to be okay with it, and like to take that as enough. Like I think that I'm so excited to take a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to try and even introduce hypothesis.
That's like the best tool ever. I tried to introduce this in one of my other the courses that I'm taking right now. My teacher was like, why can't you just write? Why can't you just take notes? And I was like, okay. Wah, wah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think going off what you were saying, Erica, about you know, they're responding to the way we're trying to do it. One thing that he mentioned was real education cannot be confined to the classroom. Right. And so, you know, we're trying to like manipulate stuff to work for the classroom, but really we should be trying to manipulate what we're doing in the classroom to work for the real world.